Right, hello there. I hope you are fine. Anyway, I'm here to talk and tell you about a paranormal encounter or a ghostly experience, or somehow something that I went through, which wasn't normal. It was very freaky. It was creepy as hell, and this happened way back in 20 2010 2010 to 29, around there. Yeah, and at that time, between 29 and 2010, I'm as you can see from my videos, and I tell you a bit of myself. I was a musician, I was in a band since 99 till 2002. Well, after 2002, I kind of things didn't worked out well. I broke up with my girlfriend, and I was young and I was dumb, and I was like so full of heart, and I kind of I just wanted to disappear from everyone that I knew at that time. So I kind of drifted apart from the whole music scene, from the whole local scene. So I just kind of went my own way, and just did my own thing. So I was pretty much drinking a lot, and doing a lot of chilling out, I guess, and just wandering around alone by myself. And I was happy being alone. You know what I mean? I was trying to find something else which is out of this world. I was trying to reach deeper into the unknown, or the something that maybe I haven't learned before, which is I was trying to reach out to a higher being, or higher spirit, something that I could see that would manifest itself, or I could see that things that can manifest into situations. And yes, I was progressing. I was pretty much always alone by myself, and I always spend my time at cemeteries, which is located around City Hall, the area, and those cemeteries dates back to probably 17th century, the 16th century, or maybe the 18th century, and it goes down, 17, 16, 17, 18th century, 19th century, around there, till the 19th century. And then the World War II came, and there were a lot of soldiers who died in that particular place where I hung out, which was a fortress, which is called Fort Canning. And strangely, at that time, that hill where I used to hang out was just a place where anyone like me who was in search of for peace of mind, or who was just sick of being or who probably went through what I went through, they would probably go to Fort Canning, and it's beautiful, especially at night, like the wind, the air is so fresh. You can smell like roses. You can smell the leaves. It's like you can smell the all sorts of like flowers that's grown in that around that area. It's a large field with a lot of trees and a lot of joggers. They jog there at night. It's pretty much safe here in Singapore. There's no cases of like murder, rape, or robberies or that kind of thing. Ever, nothing has ever happened in that particular fortress, because that place has a building where the English armies, the British soldiers, which is led by General Percival, he was stationed at this fortress, and I think that was their main headquarters during the World War II. And as for the cemeteries I was telling you about, right? If you were to walk up that hill, you would see on the side of the walls there will be a lot of like tombstone heads, and there's a lot of names. You can see like Mary Ann, Joseph, or John. And I can tell like most of them were probably Scottish immigrants, probably Scottish, Irish, or just English immigrants way back since the colonial times, when this guy named Raffles came to Singapore and decided to turn Singapore into a trading hub between British India, Singapore, and all Southeast Asia. And yeah, and I know there's this like misconception, like in America, or pretty much in America, there's this whole talk of like, anything evil is like, connected to the Illuminatis, the Freemasons, the Illuminatis, the evil. You know what? When I was like, when I was growing up, since I was a kid, right? That whole city hall area, right? There was a fucking building there, and you can see the Freemason triangle, the vernier caliper, the A and V triangle, right? It's just right there, man. It's like everyone knows the Freemasons were here since 17th centuries, or since the 16th century, man. They came here, they lived here, and at that time we had like a sultan at that time, and they both agreed like, okay, you can stay here, fine, we can do some trading and everything. And they didn't fought us like how they did in America, fighting the indigenous people over there, the tribes there. I think the only reason for that was like the indigenous tribes that were living in America, or maybe like, so certain places where there were battles between, like, the tribes and them. It is because these tribes had no sultanate, or kings or queens with guards, and like, soldiers, and like, they had like this hierarchy of like a state or empire, to actually to talk things out between amongst the English and themselves. They didn't had that empire or that communication to, like, maybe they had, but didn't went well. I don't know. Yeah. So back to my story. Singapore, where I come from. And so yes, the Freemasons has been there. And yeah, and you know what? Even at that place where I hung out a lot, right? That fortress there, which is called a Fort Canning, right? Since the 80s, if you ask any 50-year-old or 60-year-old metalhead or rockers, they've been there to watch bands like Scorpions, Megadeth, Iron Maiden. It's like they would go to the fortress and just play on that big field, man. There's a big field, and like they would set up like a big stage, and it's beautiful, man. It's like a World War II relic, which is haunted, and the government strangely allow rock concerts to be held there, and everyone knew that that place was haunted. And yeah, the building that I was telling you about, the Illuminati building, right? It's just there, just right below on the foot of that hill. So if you were to go up that hill, right, you would just pass by that building, and no one here in Singapore totally bothered about the Freemasons or the so-called Illuminatis. We couldn't be bothered about them, and it's like this organization, they are all over Asia, man. They've been like, if you were to go up from Singapore to Malaysia, you would find a lot of these buildings, man. They are left behind since the 17th century, and some of them are still functional. There are people who are handling a lot of like large businesses, and they have their own gatherings and all that, and that's fine with us, man. They do nothing wrong, man. They are not like doing anything wrong to society. And to me, I mean, like the way I perceive things in Singapore, we live in a multicultural society, and we coexist, with a lot of like religions. There's like the Muslims, the Hindus, the Buddhists, the Christians, the Jewish, and we have like a lot of like expats who come and live here. Yeah. All sorts of religion, and when you go out, right, you would see them, and there's nothing wrong with that. And there's no racial tension or any thing like that, and yeah, and the Freemasons were there. So as I was telling you, if you were to go up that hill, you would pass by that building, And yes, I do remember, like way back in the 90s, when I was a youth. I was probably 17, 16 year old. We would just go up that hill, man. Just to like do a ghost hunt, kind of like thing. And back during 1995, 1994, that hill was like really, really really dark and really, really freaky, man. I remember the grass were really high at the time. It was pretty much quite not as cleaned up yet like now. Back then the grass was really thick, you had to like go up the hill and like walk through a lot of like grass that goes up to your knee, and you have to find just a nice patch of like just a nice patch of grass that's nice enough to like kind of like sit down, and maybe couples would just go there to like just French kiss or do whatever they want, and the cemeteries are there, and and the haunted stories that people have reported seeing in that fortress is they would sometimes see soldiers marching, like Japanese soldiers, headless headless Japanese soldiers, British soldiers. These are like so-called famous ghost stories that the residents here have like shared from generation to generation, and everyone knows that place was a World War II building, and after the British surrendered, the Japanese took over, and they kept a lot of like POW prisoners, British officers, British soldiers were all stationed, were all caged and held captive in that particular building, and they were being tortured there alive, and they were beheaded. Some of them were beheaded, tortured very violently. They died a violent death. And same goes for the Japs, some of them were like screwing around each other, and they get crazy when they're drunk, that kind of thing. Or maybe some of them had died on that particular fortress when they were battling it out with the British, so that place is very very much haunted with a lot of like World War II soldiers that people have seen. So when I was 16 and 17 and I was going up that hill, right, I remember there was this empty vacant house just beside that Freemason building, right? And at that time when I was 16 and 17, I had no idea what the hell Freemasonry is. I didn't know about the Illuminati and everything, but I listened to Slayer. I listened to a lot of music, which I think right now when I look back, whatsoever, So yeah, there was a vacant house just opposite of that Freemasonry building, and I remember if we were to walk up that hill, there were like probably about you could hear dogs barking, man. Like really, really, really loud, man. And you could tell like there's like 20 or 30 of them, man, just barking and barking and barking, man. And the house is vacant, man. And we got used to it, man. We knew that there's no way the dogs could jump out that high wall. That empty building is surrounded by a high wall. And at that time, back in 1994, 1995, we were kids, and anyone who had to go up that hill, passing by that building, the dogs can sense like there's an intruder coming in, so they would start barking around and around. They'll just start barking very very loudly, man. And so at that time, I was into this goes back a long way, man. It's gonna be a long story, yeah. So I was into playing the Ouija board at that time, yeah. When I was about 16 or 17 years old, when I was 17 years old, I was heavily listening to Pink Floyd. Yeah, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. That album just like bam. It's like wow. It's it's a nice album. The drums. It's like you can feel the drums. You can like follow how it's being played and everything. So I was constantly like listening to the album. I would just like sometimes skip school and just listen to Pink Floyd. Just take a bus. Go from everywhere. Just go round and round and round and round and just listening to Pink Floyd on the bus. And then when it's time to go home, and I'll just go home, and. And so there was one night, all of us, me, my band at the time, and there were two girls at the time. I remember we were playing the Ouija board. But that wasn't our first time playing the Ouija board. We played that like a lot of times. And anyway, the cliche of playing the Ouija board, the whole thing, like and all that, But for us, nothing strange, nothing haunting or nothing like exorcising that happened to us. Everything was fine, but there was this particular strange word that kept appearing on the Ouija board each time we played that board, and the word was OLD, which is old, and then it would spell PIG. It will just kept spelling that name on that board. Each time you play. If let's say you play today, you put your hand there. And it's like, and just like 5 minutes later, it will just like OLDPIG, and then he will say, "Old pig is here." And then we are like, "Oh man, not this name again. Who the hell is Old Pig, man?" At that time we were like, "Oh man, Old Pig again? Who is Old Pig? Old Pig, Old Pig, Old Pig. And at that time I was thinking like, hey man, it could be like one of those Chinese gods, with a pig head or anything, attached to any of you guys. But none of us were Chinese. And so we thought maybe we were playing in a place where like the Chinese like had offerings or that kind of thing. But no, we tried playing that game like in a lot of places, man. But we kept saying that name on that board, Old Pig, Old Pig, Old Pig, and till we got sick of it, man. And there was even one time like I remember we played this in a building. There was an empty. There was a building somewhere in Orchard Road, just opposite of a Hard Rock Cafe. It's just an old building. It's been there since the 70s, man. And in that building, right, there's a club. I think just below the building, it's called Hardline or top 100, or it was one of those like 80s 80s rock mullet rock club, and at that time a lot of like rockers, they go there and they get drunk, they try to pick up women and everything. So from what we heard, there was a murder case that happened on the fifth story of that building, and we somehow they said that it was connected to that pub below that building, and so that was like in the 80s. So back to where I was in the 90s, we went to that building on the fifth level, right? So if you took the lift, right, to the fifth level, when the lift opened, right, when the lift opened the doors, it's pitch black. When you walk out, right, you couldn't even see your hands, man. It's pitch black. And at that time, we were like the Hardy Boys. We were the Hardy Boys at that time. I tell you, we were crazy. We were just like get drunk, get buy like we would drink like wild turkeys at that time. They had Long Island teas, they had like ciders at that time, and we would like the lift. I remember the lift open and it was pitch black, and we were like, hey, are you guys ready? And yeah, so we came out. It was pitch black, and all we had were our lighters, right? So I remember one of us like took out our lighter, and I could see like, okay, empty space. That whole area was like there was. I remember there was like one room, but it was empty. Everywhere in that whole area was vacant. It was totally vacant. So there was we took out our lighters and we looked for a spot to sit down and play the board. And one of us, I think we brought a torchlight, a little flashlight, just to have a little bit of light there, and so we played that board. And I remember at that time there was five of us, and there were a few girls who just wanted to see the whole thing, and so we played a game. And yep, nothing. It was the first few seconds, the first few minutes. He was spelling gibberish. It was like he went from F. He was like he wasn't spelling anything relevant. It was just gibberish. And so we were like, this is not making sense. But I knew that, okay, this is how it was, and this is how it has always been. It's gonna spell gibberish at first. It's gonna spin around and round and round, and later I'm gonna see old pig. And yes, that name came out, man. It went from O-L-D. It said old pig is here. And at that moment, when it said old pig is here, we heard something, some noise coming from the staircase, and some noise coming from the room. But at the time we were kids, and we were like, we were used to it, man. We've been through situations where lights flickered and everything, so we were like, oh no, not again, man. Come on, give us something more interesting, man. And then it said, I remember, man, it's still very clear in my head, and if I were to bring all my friends who played this game, they would all remember this event that took place, man. And after it said old pig is here, right? We heard the noise and everything, and then it said stop. It went straight to stop, and then it said wait, 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 listen. And it said someone is coming up. And when it said someone is coming up, we were just sitting somewhere near the security door. There was a door that could be open, and there was a security guard stationed downstairs. So when the board said someone is coming up, right, that fucking door just opened, man. And all of us were freaked out. The girls, they were screaming at the top of their heads, and the security guard was strangely this young guy. He didn't look like he should have been a security guard, man. But I remember I saw him. He had like this strange red string that he wore on his uniform, and it looked like it was like a talisman, and he had like a lot of talisman on his like fingers, both of his wrists, and he had like this red string, and his eyes were like fucking hell. His eyes were like they were both. It was as if like they were like looking at opposites the opposites. I mean, it wasn't normal, man. It was like this guy. He looked like one of those like not normal person, man. And so he opened the door, and he flashed his flashlight on us, and he looked at us, and he couldn't speak English, man, but somehow he could speak Chinese. So he spoke in Chinese, and we